The first thing people heard was not the siren or the whisper of ocean wind through the hotel palms, but a cry. Raw, hiccuping, relentless. It spilled down the marble atrium like water over glass, echoing off chandeliers and turning every head. Somewhere on the 20th floor of the Ocean M Royale, a billionaire's infant son could not be soothed. Not by warm milk, nor by the always-on white noise app, nor by the hushed confidence of 3 rotating nannies flown in from 3 different time zones. Rooms changed. Sheets changed! Pediatricians called back in the blue hours with unblinking advice. The cry never stopped. Outside, the moon dragged a silver line across the Atlantic. Inside, a man who owned satellites and shipping lanes and entire shadowy tranches of influence paced slowly between a baby bassinet and a panoramic window. Imran Vasari was not accustomed to hearing the word no, and he had heard it 3 times tonight. From the laws of biology, from the limits of wealth, and from his son. He leaned over the bassinet. The boy's face was contorted red, fists clenched like knots. "Shh," Imran pleaded, voice cracking in a pitch his board would never recognize. "Shh, I'm here." The hotel staff moved like birds in stormlight, fast, precise, useless. Carts of remedies rolled through the corridor. Chamomile, pacifiers, swaddles, thermometers, a crib that cost more than most used cars. Every inserted keycard became a prayer. Every closed door, a failure. Down on the mezzanine, a teenage bellhop in a rumpled blazer stood perfectly still. He had been about to clock out when the crying began, and the sound threaded itself through him with peculiar urgency. He watched the gleam of the elevator doors, the frantic half-steps of concierge, the hollow laughs of guests trying to pretend the night was normal. He had never stayed in a hotel room in his life. He slept on a fold-out in a one-room flat on the edge of the port. His name was Tumo Dlamini, and he knew 3 kinds of quiet. The quiet after a wave breaks. The quiet that follows a slammed door, and the quiet of a child finally falling asleep on your shoulder. He also knew a 4th, the quiet that money buys. The Ocean M Royale had that quiet on most nights, plush, heavy, perfumed. Tonight the baby shredded it to ribbons. Tumo's shift captain brushed past with a grimace. "You're off, Tumo, go. We can't afford overtime." "Yes, sir," Tumo said. But he didn't move. He kept listening, as if the cry were telling him a story only he could hear. He'd helped raise his baby cousin when his aunt got the late shift at the cannery. He knew that a baby's cry wasn't a single sound. It was a map, wetness, air, heat, fear drawn in the throat. This one was odd, sharp then hoarse, a fragment of panic repeated like a mantra. The elevator chimed. A woman in a black sheath dress stepped out, composed and ferocious in the same breath. Her name was Mara Allard, head of hotel security, old-school calm in high heels and an earpiece. She scanned the lobby, found the night manager, found the on-call doctor, found Tumo not moving, and found that interesting. He wasn't blinking a lot the way people do when they force themselves not to stare. He was listening. "Kid," she said, pausing beside him. "Shift's over." "Yes, ma'am. What are you hearing?" Tumo's mouth worked before he could decide to keep it shut. "A baby who's not just upset. Something's off." Mara studied him. "Off how?" He swallowed. "Like the room is wrong, not the child. Like the air is wrong. Has anyone opened a window up there? In a room that pricey? The windows don't open?" she said, already turning away. "Then someone needs to take him out of it." The words leapt, reckless and clear. "Someone with credentials," Mara countered, but not unkindly. "Go home." He went as far as the revolving door. The night outside was warm and salt-sticky, and the city's noises were trying to be normal. Scooters whining, couples negotiating, the distant thump of a rooftop DJ, but all of it sounded thin under that cry. He turned back. The door spun again, and this time he didn't stop until he stood beneath the chandelier, eyes on the elevator as if it were a sky about to open. Mara's earpiece crackled. "He won't stop," someone said in her ear. "Mr. Vasari is—" losing patience. "Copy," she said, and then to Tumo without looking at him, "Don't move." She strode to the front desk. "I need the air logs for 2012 through 2020. The night manager hesitated. She didn't. Now. Imran's suite was a different planet. Hushed carpet, curated art, and a view so complete it made you dizzy. The baby's cry cut through all of it. A saw through silk. Inside was chaos disguised as order. A pediatrician on a tablet spoke with maddening calm about colic and routine. A nanny tried skin to skin, her face shining with effort. Imran's jaw was set so hard his temple pulsed. "If there is a problem with the air," he said to a cluster of engineers who had been woken, "fix the air." "We can't open the windows," an engineer said apologetically. As if apologizing for gravity, Imran turned away. He could solve world-scale problems with a phone call. Yet this small bundle of lungs, this tiny person, was reminding him of the one thing money could not buy: surrender. Surrender from a child. Surrender from sleep. Mara entered, took everything in, spoke with the efficient softness of someone who has stood in the dark with weeping strangers. "Mr. Vasari, may we test the corridor? Just 2 minutes. There's a theory." "A theory?" he snapped. But he nodded. The cry clawed his composure into pieces. They moved into the hallway. The sound shifted, as sounds do when they have walls to hit and bounce from. It was clearer here and, if such a thing is possible for an infant's cry, more directional. It thinned toward the ventilation grate. Mara's earpiece buzzed. "Air logs show high VOCs earlier," the night manager said. "They've stabilized now." "What are VOCs?" Imran demanded. "Volatile organic compounds," said the pediatrician through the tablet. "Paints, cleaners. They can irritate." "We prepped this suite with off-gassing in mind," an assistant stammered. The baby's cry cut through all of it. Sharper now, close to the grate. Imran took a step, then another, as if drawn. Downstairs, Tumo couldn't stand still anymore. He told his captain his mother had texted. He lied with the face of someone who rarely did. He slipped into the service elevator and rode up with his heart knocking fast against his ribs. The doors opened on 20. Luxury is quiet even in a crisis. The carpet glowed softly underfoot. The lights were dim and exact. He followed the sound like a bloodhound. No plan, no permission, just the unshakable belief that sometimes the shortest path to help is disobedience. 2 security guards blocked the corridor ahead. He lifted his hands. "I'm staff," he said. "Bellhop, please, I think I can help." "You can help by turning around," one said without malice. But the suite door opened, and Mara stepped out. She saw the boy, recognized him from the lobby, saw the steadiness in his eyes, even though his hands were shaking. The baby's cry tore at all their edges. She made a decision that would cost her a reprimand if she was wrong, and her job if she was very wrong. "Let him in," she said. Imran stared. "Who is this?" "A bellhop," Mara said crisply. "Who hears something the rest of us don't?" Imran's mouth opened to protest, but the baby gasped in a way that was not just crying, but a tiny fish gulp, scary and thin. He closed his mouth. 2 minutes, he said to Tumo. "If you touch my son without permission, I will end your entire lineage." "Yes, sir," Tumo whispered. He stepped into a world curated to an inch and smelled it. Not wealth, not fear, but something beneath both. Faint chemical sweetness, a ghost of solvent. He moved to the bassinet and crouched, slow as prayer. The baby thrashed, exhausted by his own body. "Hey," Tumo said, the word a soft stone in water. "Hey, little man." He didn't reach in. He reached past, toward the vent. He pressed his ear to it. The air whispered across his cheek. It had a taste. Behind his eyes, memories rose. His aunt peeling paint, his cousin's cough when the neighbor varnished the floor, the way the air stung right before you got a headache. He stood, walked to the adjoining lounge, and opened the door. The cry changed timbre by a hair, less shrill, more hoarse. "Do you have another room?" he asked. "Anywhere? Far from the recent refurbishing?" "We have the royal duplex," an assistant said automatically. "Those vents link," the engineer muttered before he could stop himself. Tumo nodded once. "The baby needs air that doesn't remember this paint." "You're guessing," Imran said, voice cold as a knife. "Yes, sir," Tumo said. "But it's an educated guess." The pediatrician on the tablet cleared her throat. His cry does have the pattern of irritant discomfort. Imran's hands flexed uselessly. He had not slept in 21 hours. He had not eaten since noon. He had built empires on ruthless decisiveness. Now his heart was an exposed wire. He looked at the boy in the blazer 2 sizes too big, at the woman in the black dress risking protocol, at his son whose voice sounded like it was cutting him from the inside out. "Fine," he whispered. "Move him." They moved like a storm with a center. The elevator became a cradle. Tumo stood at the back, eyes fixed on the baby, whispering nonsense that was actually rhythm. "There we go, little river, little drum, little heartbeat. We're moving, we're moving." The new room was on the opposite wing, older, less perfect, blessedly aired by decades of mundane, breathable life. The bassinet was set down. The baby wailed once, twice, then hiccuped. Tumo didn't touch him. He lay on the carpet beside the bassinet as if he were a human horizon, somewhere small eyes could rest. "Shh," he said again, but what he meant was, "I have you." The baby's fists loosened. His cry slid down a register, caught, and then, like a locked door finally opening, ebbed. Imran didn't realize he was crying until a tear ran cooling along his jaw. He closed his eyes for 3 heartbeats and opened them again because he did not trust this quiet. But it held. It held with that fragile stubbornness particular to babies who are tired enough to surrender. For a full minute, no one spoke. The city's heartbeat filled the silence. Far-off tires, an elevator somewhere, a gull complaining at the window. Imran let a breath out of his bones. He looked at Tumo, who was still on the carpet, staring at the baby like he was trying to memorize the shape of relief. "What's your name?" "Tumo, sir." "You do not work in childcare, Tumo." "No, sir." "Then why do you know how to do this?" Tumo swallowed. "Because sometimes it's loud at home, and sometimes the only way to make it quiet is to change the room, not the person in it." Imran studied him as if he were a line item that refused to balance. He nodded once, the smallest nod, but it held a continent. "Thank you," he said hoarsely, and then the hotel's lights flickered. It was not dramatic. It was not a cinematic plunge into darkness. It was a hiccup. Nothing, then full, then nothing again for the length of a blink. The kind of flicker most guests would laugh about in the morning, if they remembered it at all. But in that heartbeat of shade, Tumo heard something he'd never heard before. Another sound underneath the new quiet. Not chemical, not infant, mechanical, a hum that didn't belong, a stuttering insect note behind the wall. His skin prickled. He turned his head slowly toward the vent. "Do you hear that?" he asked. Mara turned too. She had spent years filing away the hotel's internal music, the elevators, the boilers, the dishwashers emerging from their steam like ships. She heard it now, a thin foreign whine. Imran heard only the baby's half-sigh. "Hear what?" "The room," Tumo said. "It's not alone." Mara was already crossing to the wall. She pressed her palm to the paint, not for heat but for vibration. "Call engineering," she told her earpiece quietly. "Tell them to access the crawl space between 23 and 24. There's something in the air shaft." "What kind of something?" Imran asked, tense. "The kind that wasn't here last week," Mara said. The baby slept. The night held its breath again. Beyond the wall, something hummed and then, when the hotel lights steadied, went quiet, as if it too had exhaled. They found it by morning, not because it wanted to be found, but because the Ocean M Royale had been built with a maze inside it, and Mara knew the turns. The engineers crawled through the service chase with headlamps, coats dusty, knees bruised. 50 minutes later, one of them radioed back, words clipped by the awkward angle of his neck. "We've got a device." Imran's stomach fell through the floor of his privilege. "Define device. Looks like a diffuser, but modified. There's a cartridge inside. It was hooked to the ventilation line feeding. 2012 through 2020, a different kind of silence took the room, the one that arrives when a coin of coincidence lands on its edge and spins too long. Mara's eyes met Tumo's for a bare half-second, and then she was all spine. "Deactivate bag tag," she told the engineers. "Don't touch the cartridge with bare hands, and pull the footage on anyone who accessed that chase in the last 2 weeks." Imran stared at the vent, then at his sleeping son, the word device expanding in his mind like a bruise. He was a man with enemies he could name and enemies he could not. He was a man who had chosen outcomes over friends. He had imagined threats as headlines, scandal, stock dips. He had not imagined a humming thing behind a wall making his baby scream. Tumo swallowed. He felt as if he'd stumbled onto a road that had been running beside his life all along, hidden by trees. He wasn't sure he wanted to walk it, but the baby breathed evenly, tiny chest rising and falling like tide on a shallow beach, and that breath was now tied to whatever hid in every vent across the vast honeycomb of floors. He couldn't look away. "Mr. Vasari," Mara said carefully, "will discreetly sweep the hotel. No evacuation yet. We don't know what we don't know." Imran's laugh was sharp and small. "Story of my life." They moved like chess pieces in a quiet endgame. Security fanned out. Engineering traced ducts. Housekeeping captains checked closets they'd checked every day for years and saw them new. The on-call pediatrician stayed on the tablet advising, her voice a metronome. Tumo kept to the edges, aware that his presence was anomalous and that he was now hung between worlds, the linen carts and the suites that cost more per night than he earned in a season. The staff's whispered calculus and the decisions made 4 floors above everyone's pay grade. By 9 a.m., they had a second device in a chase that fed the conference level. By 10, a third above the spa. Each had the same cartridge. Each was quietly, maddeningly off. The flicker had killed the power relay that had kept them humming. The hotel's grid had hiccuped itself into an act of grace. "What is in the cartridge?" Imran asked again and again, and the answer came in conservative increments. "Aerosol carrier. Trace irritants at low concentration. Not lethal, but designed to agitate airways." "To make a child cry," Imran said softly. "Not asking. To make many people uncomfortable," the engineer said. Eyes not meeting his, Mara's jaw worked. She kept moving. By noon, they had the footage. A catering contractor with forged credentials, a cart that had been nothing but a cart until the camera caught the angle that made it not a cart at all. At 1 a.m., 3 nights ago, he had rolled his ordinary shape through an extraordinary door and vanished into a stairwell. He had never checked out. He had never slept in his assigned room. He was a ghost with good posture. "Why?" Imran asked, pacing the edge of the carpet while his son slept through the day like a tiny emperor. "My son, the conference guests, the spa, what do they want?" "Maybe stock in your competitor," Mara said dryly, and then shook her head. "Maybe panic. One incident becomes a reputation. People don't come back to places where the air hurts." Imran nodded once. He understood reputations. He bought and sold them when he had to. He had underestimated the price of his own. The baby gave a soft sound, neither laugh nor cry. Imran froze, then relaxed a little when the rhythm held. He looked over at Tumo, who had not moved in 20 minutes, except to stand when Imran stood, to sit when Imran sat, to become a background human constant. "Why are you still here?" Imran asked, not unkindly. Tumo blinked. "Because I wasn't asked to go." "Most people would," Imran said. "You're young and underpaid. There is a narrow path in this building where you do not get fired, and you are walking it exactly." Tumo nodded. He had no interest in lies this morning. "I don't want to leave the baby," he said simply. And then, because honesty had already been too much of his habit today, added, "Or you. You don't look like a man who should be left alone with his thoughts right now." Imran huffed out something like a laugh. "What do I look like?" "Like a person who is discovering that the universe is bigger than his list," Tumo said. "The universe has always been bigger than my list," Imran said. "I just got very good at pretending otherwise." The engineers finished. The devices were boxed and logged. The police liaison arrived with careful language. The baby slept on, because that is what babies do once the world finally makes it easy. In a quieter hour, when the crisis had shrunk into paperwork and the staff cafeteria hummed with theories, Mara found Tumo leaning against a whispering palm in the atrium, eyes closed. "Listening to the hotel breathe. You were right," she said. "It cost her nothing and bought him an entire afternoon of courage. And you were brave." "I was lucky," he said. "Luck is just the door opening," she said. Bravery is walking through it. He looked at her. They'll fire me. Not if I have a say, she said. And I do. Upstairs, Imran stood by the window and watched a city he had always thought of in terms of acquisitions move with its own stubborn rhythms. He had a list, and he added a new thing to it that had never been on any of his lists before. Go downstairs. Say thank you where anyone can hear it. He found them near the concierge desk, Mara in a black jacket now, because the day demanded armor, and Tumo in his crumpled blazer, because life did. Guests parted around Imran like tide around a rock. People who had once been faces became eyes. He ignored the phone in his pocket, snapping at him. He looked at the boy. Walk with me, he said. They moved to a quiet corner where a fountain looped itself lightly forever. Imran reached into his jacket, pulled out a thin black wallet, and then, thinking better of it, put it back. Money was a language he was fluent in. Today, he needed grammar. I have built my life on the assumption that if you pay attention and refuse to be told no, you can bend outcomes, he said. Last night I had to make an exception and let a stranger's ear be smarter than my money. It is not easy to surprise me. You did. Tumo opened his mouth and then closed it. He felt like a glass that had just been filled to the brim. Thank you, sir. I can make your life easier, Imran said. Consider that sentence a fact. What I would like to know is how you want it to be easier. Do you want school? Do you want to live in a room where the window does open? Do you want your aunt to be able to quit the cannery and breathe air that doesn't hurt? Be specific. My world moves when people are specific, Tumo swallowed. Dreams are often private because saying them out loud risks discovering their edges. But the night had already stripped him of pretense. School, he said, the word careful and bright. I want to study acoustical engineering. Sound has shape. I want to work with that shape. Maybe even design places where crying is less likely. Imran blinked, and then, to his surprise and everyone else's, laughed. It was not unkind. It was astonished. You want to fix the world that made last night possible. I want to change rooms, Tumo said. So people don't have to change themselves so much. Imran's throat tightened unexpectedly. He had changed himself so often and so violently that he had forgotten he had ever been a person who could be moved by a sentence. Done, he said, and the word was a signature. We'll set you up with a program, with housing, with everything. And you'll still work here if you like half-time, because I want you near my son when we're in this city. He saw the flinch and added softer. As a consultant, paid like one. No trays unless you miss them. I miss nothing about trays, Tumo said. Dazed. Then consider them history, Imran said. Mara watched from a deliberate distance, chin lifted in a small smile she would deny if anyone named it. Around them, the hotel resumed its curated rhythm. The devices were gone, the vents were cleared, the rooms smelled like rooms again. Guests would sleep tonight and tell a story tomorrow about a little flicker of lights that made them nervous for 1 second, and an infant who finally stopped crying. They would not know the shape the night had worn or the road the boy had stepped onto. That evening, when the sun broke into the horizon like an egg, Imran stood on the balcony with his son in a soft carrier against his chest. He was not a man who had ever worn a baby before. It made him feel ridiculous and holy at once. The baby sighed in that melted way of infants who have decided, for now, that the universe is acceptable. Imran thought about air and money and rooms and doors, and about a teenager who had walked through one when it mattered. He took out his phone and opened an email that had been sitting unsent for months, a simple note to his estranged sister that began with, I miss you. He did not hit send. He wasn't ready, but he was closer to ready than he had been yesterday.
A quiet room in 2005, a woman at 58 and a book in her hands. In breathing out, Peggy Lipton opens the door and lets us in. The voice is soft, the story is not. Love, fame, and hard choices sit side by side. It began in secret in 1969 when she met Quincy Jones. The world watched their glow, not the shadows. A surprise wedding came in 1974, simple and quick. 2 daughters followed, Kidada and Rashida, bright lights in a busy life. By 1986, the distance had a name, separation. In 1990, the marriage ended, papers signed, hearts not fully mended. Years later, Quincy admitted he had many girlfriends while they were married, even dozens around the world. The truth cut deep, fame did not soften it. This is a story about love that tried to hold, about a woman who told it straight without bitterness, about music, power, and the price paid in private. You will hear the warm parts and the sharp ones. If you love R&B, if LMI is on your playlist, lean in. This is a timeline you can feel. Moments, dates, choices, all in plain view. Let's follow Peggy's voice and see what it costs to keep going. The secret start in 1969, how Peggy Lipton met Quincy Jones. Here is where the story turns from rumor to heartbeat. A young TV star, a seasoned music mind, and a quiet meeting far from Los Angeles. The spark did not shout. It whispered. You can feel it even now, the pull of two lives on different tracks finding one line. A quiet spark at sea, and why they kept it hidden. They met in 1969 on a sailboat in the Bahamas. The water was bright, the sky clear, and the pace slow. Peggy was 22, fresh off the Mod Squad with fame already pressed to her name. Quincy was older, known, and married. The day looked simple, but something new started. They talked, they watched the horizon, and a bond formed fast. No cameras, no headlines, just two people leaning in. That first connection felt safe out there, like the sea gave them cover. It was sweet, it was private. They kept it secret for years, not because it was small but because it was fragile. Fame strips things bare, privacy protects them. They guarded the start like a small flame cupped in both hands. The world sees the highlight reel, the heart remembers the silence. Even now, that choice to hide makes sense. Love needs space to breathe. Fame and age brought early imbalance. There was a 13-year age gap, that alone changes the pace. She was rising on TV, he was rooted in music with power and reach. Their lanes were not equal and both knew it. Peggy had fresh heat, magazine covers, a hit show. She was learning as she went. Quincy had a larger map. The studio doors opened for him. He had history, allies, and pull. That difference can tilt a room. It shapes who speaks first and who waits. It also shapes what gets said and what stays quiet. This did not make the bond less real, it made the balance harder. She brought youth, light, and a fearless charm. He brought wisdom, craft, and a wide network. Two gifts, different weight. When fans look back, it helps to keep that context in view. Power in TV and power in music do not feel the same. They move to different rhythms. Race and the late 60s cultural climate. Their relationship crossed a line that still drew stares. Interracial couples in the late 60s faced extra pressure. Laws had changed, minds had not. Public spaces were not always kind. Private circles could be sharper. The stress showed up in small ways, side glances, tight smiles, questions that probed. It also showed up in big ways, headlines, industry chatter, family concerns. The time added weight to every step. They pushed forward anyway. That choice took nerve. It meant protecting what they had while the culture watched. It meant staying quiet when noise would have been easier. For anyone who loves soul and R&B, you know that tension, sweetness and strain in the same note. That is how this love began, quiet, real, and brave for its day. 1974 wedding shock, love, spotlight, and two baby girls. A quiet ceremony, a loud reaction. In 1974, Peggy Lipton and Quincy Jones chose each other, not the headlines. The vows were small, the news was not. Two baby girls, Kidada and Rashida, arrived soon after, softening long days and sharpening hard choices. This is the year their private love met public light and a family began. Why their marriage stunned Hollywood. The surprise did not come from scandal, it came from timing, fame, and history. Peggy was the face of the Mod Squad, a TV icon who carried a cool calm. Quincy was a studio force with a global reach and a producer's ear. Their worlds rarely crossed in public, so the wedding felt sudden to fans and industry eyes. Race shaped the reaction, and it deserves careful words. Interracial marriage had legal protection by 1967, but public comfort lagged. The glare was real. Many people cheered the match, some stared too long, and the press tracked every move. Peggy and Quincy met it with grace. They did not preach. They stood together, spoke with care, and kept family first. Over time, the shock eased into respect, and the story settled into its true form, two adults choosing love and building a home. Work, travel, and new parenthood. Cue the split-screen life, studio lights on one side, a crib lamp on the other. Early call time, Peggy feeds a newborn, then reads lines in the car. Red-eye flight, Quincy lands at dawn, ear still ringing from a session. Bottles on the counter, sheet music on the piano, a burp cloth draped over a gold record. Schedules collided. One late rap turned into a missed bedtime, one overseas gig stretched into weeks, phone calls kept the thread, nannies helped but parents carry the weight, quick hugs in doorways, notes left on fridges, a first smile caught between takes, a tiny laugh cutting through jet lag. Peggy stepped back from constant screen work to steady the home rhythm. Quincy kept moving, tracking songs, scoring films, making rooms sing. The push and pull became their tempo. Think of a bass line under a soft vocal. That was their house at night, work humming while a baby slept. Meet Kidada and Rashida inside the Jones home. Start with warmth, records spinning at breakfast, storybooks stacked by a couch, a father humming melodies between bites, a mother reading with a gentle voice and a steady heart. That was the room where Kidada and Rashida learned who they were. Kidada, born in 1974, had color in her hands early. She drew bold lines, cut shapes, and dressed dolls with flair. She loved texture, pattern, and play. Rashida, born in 1976, watched closely. She lined up blocks, built little worlds, and copied dialogue from TV scenes. She listened for beats in words, not just in songs. Their home stitched art into daily life. Music was not background, it was air. Creativity was not a plan, it was how they played. No pressure, just access. Instruments in corners, pens and paper on the table, records near the speakers. A parent cheering from the doorway. Those roots mattered. Kidada later turned to fashion and design, fearless and bold. Rashida stepped into acting and writing, sharp and quick. But in these early years, they were sisters in socks on smooth floors, sliding through a hall while a classic track filled the space. The house glowed with love and work, with rhythm and rest. For anyone who loves R&B, you can hear it. A groove laid down by two artists and two little girls finding their steps inside the beat. Inside a complicated marriage, affairs, loneliness, and boundaries. Here is where the shine fades and the quiet parts speak. Two artists in motion, two parents under pressure, and a marriage that carried both sweetness and strain. Love was real, but so was distance. This is the cost of a life built in studios, on sets, and in the glare of fame. Quincy's 22 girlfriends confession and what it meant. In later interviews, Quincy Jones said he had 22 girlfriends during those years. He spoke about girlfriends in cities across the world, from Cape Town to Shanghai to Cairo to Sao Paulo. He said they knew about each other and that he was blunt about it. The admission landed like a cold truth, simple and heavy. For a marriage, that level of outside intimacy rewrites the home script. Trust becomes work, not air. Daily life shifts into caution and coping. You count hours, you mark missed calls, you hold your breath through trips. The house stays tidy, but the floor creaks. The spillover shows up in small, relentless ways. Fewer shared meals, more unanswered texts. Plans made, then reshuffled, then dropped. Stories told with careful edits to spare feelings. Sleep that comes late and never deep. He framed it as honesty. She had to live with it. Honesty does not cancel pain, it only names it. In a famous family, the truth also climbs the walls, even the kids notice. When your daughters set age limits for who can be around, the line has already been crossed. That is what this confession meant, not just numbers but a worn-down trust day after day. Peggy's voice, pain and push for respect. Peggy spoke in clear words about being lonely in a crowded life. She was present, loving, and still felt unseen. That is a sharp kind of quiet. You smile for photos, you hold the family together, and a thin ache stays in the room. She asked for respect, not drama. Respect looks like simple habits. Show up when you say you will, keep private promises, tell the truth before rumors do, protect the bond when no one is watching. She wanted that baseline and she had a right to ask for it. Loneliness inside a famous marriage can be louder than any applause. You hear it between flights. You feel it when the door shuts after another late night. Boundaries became her lifeline, not walls but guardrails. She learned to say this is okay and this is not. She protected her voice even when the world only wanted the love story. That courage reads soft, but it is iron. Here is the heart of it. She loved him and still needed space that felt safe. She forgave but did not forget herself. She chose clarity over confusion, even when it hurt. Peggy's strength was not a headline, it was a daily practice. She modeled what many people in hard marriages try to do: hold love in one hand and self-respect in the other. The private cost of nonstop work. Fame looks full, schedules make it hollow. A studio day bleeds into a night session, a flight steals a weekend, Calls stack up, promises slide, the calendar becomes the boss, even strong couples feel it. Music and TV run on deadlines and other people's needs. You show up or the machine stalls, that pressure isolates you even while you stand in a crowd. For Quincy, the work never let up. For Peggy, home took the hit. She paused parts of her career to keep the center steady. That choice brought peace to the girls, but it asked a lot of her. Love battled lifestyle, and lifestyle often won, not because love was weak but because time is ruthless. When work takes the prime hours, love gets the leftovers. You can feel that creep. Holidays cut short, milestones missed, a partner on speakerphone not by your side. In the end, the price shows up in quiet scenes. A plate kept warm on the stove. A child's drawing taped to an empty chair. A suitcase always half-packed near the door. That is the cost behind the music and the shows. Two people did their best against a long, loud schedule. The heart wanted steady. The life was built on motion, and somewhere between those beats the marriage lost time it could not replace. Breakup to co-parenting, 1986 split, 1990 divorce, 2 homes. The marriage ended, the family did not. By 1986 the separation was real. In 1990 the divorce was final. What followed was not a tabloid feud. It was 2 parents learning a new rhythm so their daughters could grow strong. 2 homes, 1 family standard, and a quiet promise to keep showing up. Who lived where and how they stayed a family. After they split, the house split too. The daughters chose what felt right. Kidada lived with Quincy. Rashida lived with Peggy. It was simple and honest. Each girl got a space that fit her. The parents kept the bridge steady. They did school events, birthdays, and check-ins with care. Calls were returned, plans were kept, holidays rotated without drama. Small moments said more than big statements. Peggy and Quincy sat in the same row at performances. They shared stories without point scoring. They even appeared together on-screen to support Rashida on the TV series Tribeca. That kind of unity showed the girls a clear truth. The marriage ended, the respect stayed. They handled custody like adults with joint care and clear schedules. No stage show, just steady parenting. A family can live in 2 places and still move as one. They proved it. Kidada and Rashida choose their own paths. The split did not limit the girls, it gave them room to grow into themselves. Kidada Jones' style was her language. She turned bold taste into real work, shaping looks that mixed street sense with high design. She moved from personal styling into brand and creative projects, always with that fearless eye. Color, line, and story sat in the clothes she touched. Rashida Jones' words and timing became her tools. She built a career in acting and writing, sharp on the page and quick on screen. Comedy, drama, producing, and scripts, she handled all of it with focus and heart. The tone was hers, smart and warm. No gossip needed, the point is independence. Each daughter chose her lane and stayed at the wheel. That is the quiet gift of a stable co-parent plan. Kids feel safe enough to take risks and make real work. Co-parenting lessons from a famous home. A famous name cannot fix a hard season. Simple habits can. Here are the takeaways that travel well. Consistency, keep the calendar clean, drop-offs on time, calls when promised. Kids trust clocks more than speeches. Respect, speak well of the other parent in front of the kids and in private. Respect lowers the volume in the room. Clear roles, set who handles what. School forms, travel, health, money. Fewer surprises means fewer fights. Shared values, agree on non-negotiables. Kindness, effort, honesty. Different houses, same core rules. Private boundaries, adults handle adult topics away from kids. Pain is real, but children are not therapists. Show up together when it counts. Performances, graduations, key moments. 1 line of support, 2 sets of hands. Protect the routine, bedtimes, meals, study hours. Rhythm calms the heart, especially after a split. Keep the door open, let kids love both parents without pressure, no keeping score. Their story was not tidy, but the parenting was steady. 2 artists, 2 homes, and 1 promise to raise daughters who could stand tall. That is the groove that held when the marriage could not. It is a lesson any family can use. At 58, Peggy speaks, what breathing out revealed. Her voice at 58 felt steady, warm, and exact. In breathing out, Peggy Lipton did not rush or reach for drama. She set the tempo, then told what she could hold for years. The words land like a late-night track, soft on the surface, honest at the core. If you love soul music, you know that mix. It is tender and clear at the same time. She wrote for herself, her daughters, and anyone who knows love can be both gift and weight. No scorekeeping, no revenge, just a woman finding center, then sharing how she got there. Why she waited to tell her story. Time gave her tools that youth did not. Maturity reshaped the edges of old pain. She could see the full picture, not just the sharpest scenes. Healing helped her choose what to keep private and what to place on the page. She also protected her family. When your children are growing, you guard the quiet in your home. You hold back details they do not need. You let them build their own sense of the world. Peggy honored that. She kept the volume low until it felt safe to turn it up. There is also the simple truth of breath. You speak well after you can breathe again. Breathing out is a fitting title. She had carried a lot, then let it move through. The result is measured and human. It reads like someone who did the work, then told the truth with care. Key reasons she waited. Maturity, time made space for nuance and calm. Healing, personal growth softened hard edges without erasing them. Family first, she guarded her daughter's peace while still honoring her voice. The truths she put on the record. Peggy wrote with a clear spine. The themes sit close to the heart. Love, it began as deep and electric. She honored the bond that made a family and shaped her life. Hurt, distance, outside relationships, and long absences left bruises. She named the ache without turning bitter. Growth, she stepped back then stepped forward as her own person. Therapy, faith, and routine brought her back to center. Self-worth, she learned to set limits, say no, and keep her own light on. Respect became non-negotiable. Her tone stays steady. She does not dodge, she also does not swing wild. The page holds both the sweet and the sting, which is why it rings true. What Quincy later said about love and freedom. Quincy Jones has always been candid in interviews. He speaks with bold color about love, freedom, and the mess that can follow success. He has praised Peggy's heart and the family they built. He has also been open about living wide, traveling often, and not fitting into a tight romantic script. That honesty can feel like charm and thunder at once. For him, love and freedom often ran side by side. For her, love asked for steadiness and respect. Both views have weight. Both show how two people can share a life, then part, and still honor what was real. The balance read is simple. He told his truth in public, with no filter. She told her truth in print with care. Their daughters got parents who showed up, even when the marriage could not last. In the end, the words from both sides form a full chord. Love mattered, freedom mattered, so did growth and self-respect. Peggy's book lets you hear that chord clean, like a final note that fades and leaves you quiet for a beat. What we can learn about love, respect, and healing today. Take a breath and sit with the truth. Love can be sweet and still leave a mark. Respect keeps the rhythm steady. Healing lets the music keep playing after the lights come up. Peggy's story carries lessons we can use in real life. It shows how trust bends, how boundaries save you, and how self-worth rises when you choose peace. Think of it like a slow jam that tells the truth without shouting. You feel the ache, then you hear the lift. Spot the signs and protect your peace. If you keep guessing where you stand, name it. Unclear patterns drain you, and clarity is care. When words and actions do not match, pause. Consistency is the proof that love is safe. If your needs shrink to make space for someone's lifestyle, reset the balance. Your life matters too. When you hide your pain to keep the peace, speak up. Silence protects the problem, not you. If trust feels like work every day, set boundaries. Respect grows in well-marked spaces. When your body keeps the score, listen. Tight shoulders and short sleep tell the truth before you do. Love someone famous without losing yourself. Keep your name, say who you are out loud often, write it down if you need to. Protect time, block hours for sleep, friends, and work, keep those hours sacred. Tell the truth early, say what you need and what you cannot live with. Set fair rules, privacy, phones, trips, guests, agree then follow through. Share the schedule, fame runs late, your life still counts, plan then adjust together. Ask for presents, not just posts, not just flowers, real presents, real time. Build your own wins, stay sharp at your craft, money, purpose, and pride protect your heart. Leave room to walk, a clear exit is not disloyal, it honors your worth. For R&B fans, how the music mirrors real life. A slow jam holds both heat and hurt. The verse carries the story. The hook holds the hope. That is how love feels when trust and choice sit in the same room. You sway because the groove is warm, but you listen because the truth is plain. Think about your favorite late-night track. The bass is steady like a promise. The vocal cracks a little like a confession. That mix is real life. You choose to stay when respect shows up. You choose to leave when it does not. Choice sits in the pocket right next to the beat. Use the music like a mirror. Hear the lyrics, do they match your life or just your wish? Track the pattern, is the chorus the same apology every time? Feel your body, do you relax or do you brace for the drop? Choose the next note, stay if trust is growing. Step back if peace is shrinking. Put on a slow jam tonight and listen for your story. If the song sounds like home, hold it close. If it sounds like a warning, believe it. Love should move like a groove that holds you up, not a loop that wears you down. Respect keeps time, healing changes the key so you can sing again. A quiet room, a steady voice, and a life told with care. At 58, Peggy Lipton chose truth over shine, and the Peggy Lipton and Quincy Jones story became bigger than fame. She honored the bond that made a family, named the hurt that followed, and showed how boundaries keep a heart from breaking twice. He stood by his freedom and his art, she stood by respect and calm. Both gave love, both paid a price, and both kept showing up for their daughters. This is about love and boundaries that protect the soul and healing that lets the music keep playing. It circles back to that first soft spark, then lands on hard-earned peace. The lesson is simple and strong. Love is real, respect must be daily, and your voice matters. If this moved you, add your thoughts in the comments. Like the video and subscribe for more R&B life stories told with heart.